YouTube, it's your boy Above Average Cody coming at you today with a Halo Infinite tips video where I'm hopefully going to help you improve your aim and shooting across the map here in ranked. Now, I did a video on this way back in the day with what I thought were some really helpful tips, but of course, I've improved a lot since I made that video, and I've implemented a lot of different things into my longer range gunfights, and now I'm going to compile everything I could possibly give you guys to hopefully help you improve the same way I have in these gunfights across the maps. Now, we're first going to jump into a couple clips from literally yesterday's gameplay where I am taking a longer range gunfight, and then I'm kind of going to break it down for you and show you guys what I do to actually do a lot better in these longer range fights than I normally would. Two things I want to preface though is one, I used to be horrified to take longer range gunfights across the map because I was so bad at getting scope knocked and just not hitting my bullets and just losing a lot of gunfights. So these tips should give you more confidence in that. But the second thing I want to say is do not use this confidence to always be shooting across the map. I'll break that down a little bit towards the end of the video, but trust me, this is so that you can do better in the situations where you have to shoot at longer range. But trust me, you do not always have to be doing so. Now, I'm just going to let this clip play, and I'll show you guys both of these gunfights. The second one's not as good of an example as finishing the gunfight, but it's still worthy of being broken down. Now, here you can see the first tip I'm going to give you guys is actually from these clips here, and that is to be ready to shoot. I want you guys to see where my reticle is in this gunfight the whole time, because, of course, teammates bring a ball back to tower. I'm relatively confident, obviously, through comms and hearing gunshots and things like that. Somebody is going to be ready to shoot him in the back. So you can see my reticle here. It is up. And when I break this ledge, just forget about the quality here. Try to ignore that for a second. But my reticle is already right over the fella that is chasing him. So all I have to do is scope in and start hitting these bullets. Now, the reason this is such a big deal in the long-range gunfights is because a lot of times, as long as you're not going to fight to the death, whoever gets the first bullet is going to knock the enemy out of their scope, and it is going to be much harder for them to hit you. So if you can get the first bullet and you knock them out of their scope and you're able to keep laying down damage, you are likely either going to kill them or force them to back off out of this fight. And this fella obviously does not choose to back out. I get first bullet. He does lay a little bit of damage into me, but with the confidence that I've gained through these longer range gunfights, I'm going to just do my best to keep my reticle over him. He doesn't do much side-to-side motion, and I'm able to slam him for the perfect medal. And while this isn't the longest range gunfight, it's long enough where I'm going to choose to scope in because I feel a little bit more confident in hitting my shots there. And now let's go to the second clip with working off that same first tip, and that is being ready to shoot, guys. Right here, watch the reticle. It's up. It took me a little bit of correcting, but I just brought it up nice and smooth right onto the enemy there to get the first shot into him. Because you can see here, he's not as ready to shoot as me. I am scoping in as I turn this corner right as I see him. And although my reticle is not right over him, the biggest thing is getting scoped in and just being ready to pull that trigger. I get up. I get first shot very easily. I move through the cover, and then I do my best to just keep on shooting and laying into him. And of course, I had the upper hand in this gunfight. I took a little bit too much damage, and then I made the right decision to just hide. I have a teammate here that could potentially help, but then the ego is much too big in these Diamond 6 lobbies, and I strafed back out. I wanted to try to get the kill, and I actually end up going down here. So guys, the biggest tip is always the first one, right? I'm not making you guys wait for the big tips. Be ready to shoot. Get that first bullet. If you can just do those two things, don't even practice the aiming or anything. If you can just be ready to shoot and get that first bullet, I promise you, especially if you're in like lower diamond, even platinum lobbies, people are going to be way too scared to chow you if you get that first bullet, and they're likely just going to back down or run and hide, and that's really how you're going to get the advantage here in these gunfights. Now, the second tip I want to get into, guys, and this is something I covered a lot in that old video I did on the long-range gunfights, and this is a technique I don't really see anybody do, so I'm not saying this is the best method. I'm just saying it's what I've done, and when I started doing it, it severely changed my long-range gunfights in this game, and that is I kind of scope knock myself. So I do use left trigger to ADS, and it is on it would be toggle or hold. It's on hold. So if I hold it down, I'm scoped. If I let it go, I'm not scoped. And what I do is I kind of feather it while I'm shooting, which you can see here. Even, well, he's hitting a lot of bullets, so it's hard to tell. But even when the enemy's not hitting bullets, I'm still going in and out of my scope. Now, the only reason I started doing this is because it's really frustrating when you get scope knocked and then all of a sudden you're aiming at the floor or you're aiming at the sky, because the sensitivity in your scope is much different than the sensitivity outside of the scope. It goes for just about every weapon unless you play with the multipliers, which I do not. I have them all on default. So, to kind of counter that, I started kind of just practicing with all left stick aim, very, very little right stick aim, and then I'd kind of scope knock myself, because then you're not as shocked when you get scope knocked, and whenever you get scope knocked, you have to repress the trigger to go back into the scope. It doesn't just go back in for you. So to practice this, I just started taking longer range gunfights against the bot, and I'm literally like this. I'm up and down on the trigger, which is why you see me going in and out of scope. If you watch my streams enough, I even do it when the enemy's not even looking at me, and that's because I started practicing this way, and it just became more effective for me to just do this in gunfights. And as you can see here, if they're not moving too much, it works out really, really well. Except the biggest thing is if they are strafing left and right, you kind of just have to strafe with them, but you can't be too heavy on the right stick. Now, those rules kind of apply to whether you use this method or not, but this is just what I've done for a long time now on Infinite, and this is what I found works for me. And again, it's kind of just like practicing and working through the scope knock and then knocking yourself out of the scope so that you don't really get super thrown off if you're taking damage anyway. So I'm pretty much not affected if I'm taking damage or not. But again, it's just a technique that I use. Feel free to try it. Once I get into a custom game here in a second, I'll kind of show you what I mean and how I practice that. It's pretty straightforward. But anyways, those are the two biggest tips. Now we're going to get into some more of the nitty-gritty stuff that's going to really help you in the actual gameplay as opposed to the gunfight itself. Now, it is worth mentioning I'm only going to be using this method with the battle rifle and also the bandit. Aiming with the sniper rifle requires a bit more staying scoped in, and you might give it one quick tap and shoot. You'll see the pros do that, and it'll come up as maybe like a no scope if you hit the headshot or whatever, just because that's kind of an easier way to counteract the scope knock, but also get your single shot in. So these two weapons, these two main weapons will be the ones that I do this. And guys, practicing this is super straightforward. You're literally just gonna do this and just practice basically hitting as many shots as you can with using very little right stick. And of course, you're going to want the bot shooting back at you. I feel like that's self-explanatory. And then if the enemy's not shooting you, you can obviously just stay scoped in. You do not have to do it all the time. But in terms of just overall practicing it, that's kind of just, I started practicing that way, and then it ended up just being kind of like the best thing for me to do. And you can see I will strafe side to side, which will bring me to my next tip here, guys. And that is, if you're going to take a long-range gunfight, do not just stand here and, you know, just shoot. You want to be moving, but moving methodically. Like, I'll try to get a couple bullets and then strafe into cover, and then maybe I'll strafe in and out of cover, but I'm really not going to bet my whole life on a gunfight across the map, because I'm most of the time just trying to get some damage in. If I think I have the upper hand and I can get the final bullet, I'll take it. But most of the time, they're going to back out, and you don't want to just tunnel vision on it out in the open, because you're going to be a sitting duck for the other three enemies on the map. So generally, you want to be doing this strafing to cover. You never want to take a gunfight completely out in the open at a longer range, because you're going to take so long trying to get these bullets in that you're going to just be a sitting duck for all the other enemies on the map, and you're going to be way, way too easy of a kill. So you really want to be thinking about when you are taking these long-range gunfights, and there's a lot that goes into this, there's a lot you have to think about when you're standing there trying to shoot somebody across the map. It's going to come down to enemy position, teammate position, what point you are in your life on the map, because if you're the first spawner and you're about to get pinned in the base, I really don't want to see you spawning up and just shooting across the map, right? Because this just gives the enemy the entire map to move, right? If you're the first spawner, you have to get moving. You don't want to be just standing there in the back of the base. Once you get out of the base, you can start looking around, you know, and then maybe taking some shots, but then you have to have your head on a swivel and you have to get out. But if you have the advantage on the map, you know, maybe you're holding tower here on Forbidden, then you have a bit more of a luxury to be moving around shooting across the map. But do not tunnel vision, do not take your fights out in the open. You're going to want to use these tips to just help you gain more confidence in the long-range gunfights when it's opportune or necessary to be taking them. By no means do you want to use this as in, I'm going to sit in the back of the base and just shoot across the map. I just wanted to give you some more confidence, because you don't want to be that guy getting hit by the first bullet at these medium to long-range gunfights and then just backing down all the time. Because if you're backing down, hiding, you know, waiting for the enemy to get close, you're really not doing much to help your teammates. You know, so be ready to slide this corner, be ready to shoot, have your reticle up, you know, pop a couple shots and then duck back out. You'll see pros literally peck like 1 or 2 shots long range, and then they'll literally duck out because they're no good to their teammates if they're at 50% health or even 25% health. So just use this to implement some extra things into your gameplay, but by no means do you want to make the long range fights a priority in your gameplay. So guys, I recommend just working on one little thing at a time. The most important one probably being ready to shoot. This comes with anticipating spawns and things like that. Maybe somebody pings, but when you jump up, you know, you don't want to be like this and then be like, oh no, you know, there's an enemy there. And this goes for like any gunfight ever. You want to have your reticle up and ready to shoot. And obviously it's easier here showing you because I know exactly where he's going to be, but he's probably going to spawn somewhere across the map. So I'm going to check, I'm going to peek, I'm going to check, I'm going to go mid, I'm going to check. But no matter what, I'm going to keep my reticle up and I'm going to do my best to get that first bullet. And once you get that first bullet, you got to get through the gunfight without getting scope knocked and being all willy-nilly with your aim and aiming all over the place. Use a lot of left stick in these longer range gunfights. Feel free to peck a couple shots, strafe into cover, and just keep moving. But again, do not over-fixate on one thing. Don't stare in one area, because I can't tell you guys how many times somebody's going to jump up next to you, come up behind you, and you are going to be the most free kill on the map, and you're going to end up in a YouTube short not paying attention. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all the things that I've implemented to really help out my long-range gunfights. Hopefully you took something away from this. Again, these gunfights maybe aren't as long as some of you were anticipating me to show you, but at no point am I going to hyper-fixate on a gunfight that's like this long, unless it's like assault and they're literally planting the bomb or they're about to capture the flag. I'm really just not going to, or unless you have a sniper, I'm really not going to be wasting time with this gunfight. The more realistic, quote-unquote, long-range gunfights are going to be maybe this distance, which is probably more like a medium-range gunfight on the map. But trust me, regardless, I see a lot of people just back down from those gunfights. I used to be one of them. Just because it's really hard to aim, and it's really hard if you don't get the first bullet. So you have to try to get that first bullet, and if you don't, you have to use your cover, and don't ego chow like I did in the second example clip that I showed you guys at the beginning. But guys, that's everything I got for you with long-range gunfights. I had a few people ask for this one, so I figured it was time to do an updated one because I've really improved on my longer-range gunfights. So I figured I'd show you guys what I do in them and what my thought process is when I'm taking these fights. So guys, hit the subscribe button. We're less than 500 away from our goal of 10,000 subs, which is absolutely insane to say. We're also over on Twitch streaming now, so if you're looking for the streams, you can catch them in 2 different places now, so go follow on the channel there. Other than that, guys, hit the thumbs up on this video. Leave a comment. Let me know what your long-range gunfight tips are and what else you have for to help people maybe looking for help down in the comment section. But yeah, guys, that does it for me. Channel memberships and super thanks also if you'd like to support in that way. But outside of that, guys, stay happy, stay healthy, and stay tuned for the next video, y'all.